speaking of that, I was curious to ask you about this because there's this tension between social media or Twitter specifically as
Yeah.
the concept of Twitter as the public square, and then the concept of
Yeah.
Twitter as a privately owned platform whose owners
Yeah.
can do whatever they wish, right? So, I mean, those
Right.
things are directly in conflict with each other. And every time somebody gets banned from Twitter, we have the same conversation about free speech, free expression, and the culture versus the reality. I'm curious what you think about it from a libertarian perspective.
Yeah, and this is where I fall into a pretty doctrinaire libertarian line, which is that Twitter is a private entity, as are all of the social media companies, and that the last thing I want to see, like no matter how shitty they are, I don't want to see the government starting to tell them how to operate their
Right.
business, because this is ultimately a business regulation. And on top of that, though, I think it's really important to look at the reality of things, and that, it's incredibly important to recognize that as this conversation was happening, even Facebook left Facebook and became Meta. And they are showing a decline in the developed world. Not and Facebook functions more like the internet in many poorer countries, and it also it's got its issues, but it's giving access to something that people absolutely didn't have. In the U.S. and in Europe, it's fading because in terms of users. Same thing with Twitter. Twitter has had essentially a very static user base because people don't like it, and people don't like it for different reasons. Some are like, oh, there's too much unmoderated talk, or there's too much moderation, but it's not working that well. And you're seeing a proliferation, whether it's TikTok, or Discord groups and all sorts of decentralized and new, less governable or more governable, alternatives. What I think is most important is not what any of focusing on big tech. This is the economic history of the United States and antitrust action is that big companies like dominant firms become the target of antitrust. That's like the leading indicator that they no longer matter the way they used to. This was true of the railroads. It was true of big corporations like Standard Oil and tobacco companies and things like that. They want the regulation oftentimes because it allows them to fix the market at a place where they're at their peak, and they know that. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg talked in 2018 about how it's time for the internet to be regulated, and we want to help you write those regulations.
He was
quite blatant about it. And Facebook has been running ads saying, a lot has happened since 1996 when the rules that broadly govern the internet were first staked. And they have people born in 1996 talking about look at how, older and fatter I am now. We need new regulations. That's a clear signal. They want regulatory capture because they're going to be able to be in charge of it. So I don't worry about that too much as long as people have the ability to go elsewhere. And I think, broadly speaking, that they do. And I think certainly all of us who are in a broad free speech coalition, which, free speech is libertarian, but not all people in the free speech coalition, are doctrinaire libertarians for sure. But we have so many tools at our disposal. And I think, groups like you're doing, as well as the shift of fire from, talking about higher education to, areas that the ACLU has kind of announced a pullback on. These are all really good signs that there is a robust free speech, free expression, free thought, not only community, but the ability to get this stuff out there. And that's the ball that you got to keep your eye on.